by playing around with the diffuse amount of the iPod. Let's turn this down to 60 and maybe lighten the color. And I think this is okay. We're not going for perfection right now, although the area light might need to go down to 5. Okay. And now let's add a texture. Maybe let's try high gloss for our body. Let's see how that changes. Well, it doesn't change too much, but I think it's acceptable. Okay, and white plastic. We want this to be medium gloss, and we want this to be white. And the specular amount to 5, and Fresnel to 35. Okay, let's see how this looks from up top. Oh, maybe not that white. Maybe a bit gray. That's okay. And let's change the diffuse color of the text to almost black. And maybe this can go a bit down. There we go. That looks much better. And for the charger, we're just going to use a standard standard brass, matte brass. Okay. Now for the screen, we're just gonna drag the screen material that we found, and let's just zoom over to our screen. Okay, and now we need to add it as image map and iPod screen. And let's turn off the anti-aliasing. And now, considering that our final color output is 2.2, we need to divide this. Well, first of all, let's set this to solid and to auto size. And now that considering that our output gamma is 2.2, we need to divide this one value by 2.2. That way our image will gain more contrast. Okay, and now let's duplicate our image, change back the gamma to 1, and set this to luminous amount. Duplicate it again and set this to luminous color. Okay, now that we're done with the screen, let's get on with the menu wheel, which should be fairly simple again. Let's drag our menu. You can drag it right here if you can keep it steady. Okay, and let's now we can set this to UV. Let's see if it okay. Apparently I think we forgot something. on the UV. For some reason the UV didn't save, but it saved to texture 2. There we go. Found out what the problem was. And now we only need to modify the texture slot that it applies to. So go to button mask, and we go to texture locator, and we set the UV map to texture 2. There we go. Now we need to set this material to almost white. We need, well, actually let's copy from the plastic material. We're gonna copy over and paste it. The only thing is that we don't need too much reflection on this. I think 1 will do, and maybe 10 for now. And make sure you tick blurry reflections. Okay, and now let's set this to diffuse amount. Maybe we need to invert it a bit. Okay, and we need the opacity to about 75. No, less. 60. Let's go 50. Okay. Well, I think we still need to see those quite a bit. So, okay. Now that we're done with setting the textures, we're just gonna have to pose our iPod. So make sure you find a suitable angle for your camera. And one thing we need to do about the studio, let's just save, is to extrude this, to extend this edge. I'm using edge extend, which is Z for shortcut. Make sure you set the action center to automatic. Okay, and now let's bevel this to get a smooth transition. That way we can choose our camera angle better. Okay, and now we want to duplicate our iPod. So let's just go to duplicate and clone it. 2 times. Switch to wireframe, and well, actually we're gonna go to front, and I think the selection would be better rectangle. Okay, and now let's move this a bit behind our iPod, just like that. And now this one needs to go flat on his back, minus 90 degrees. Make sure you set it on the ground. Okay, and just rotate it like that. This is an acceptable pose for our iPod. Now let's change the camera, the film gate to to the image ratio of 1. Okay, and now we need to add different materials to these, so let's just call this body mat 2 and body mat 3. Okay, and now we need to apply the same material to our body, our new body materials that we have on this one. So just copy it and paste it over. Now we just need to change the colors. I know that iPods also come in pink, so let's just pick one pink, and this one let's say green, and the other one I don't know, maybe a blue. Okay, now as you can see, our texture got messed up on this one, so we're gonna need to add a different screen, different material, so we can tweak it for this one only. So screen 2, and we add an image map with the screen. This doesn't affect the wheel because we have a UV map for it. We should have done the same for the screen, but we can do it manually. Okay, set this to solid auto size, and now we just need to play with it, and we're gonna see that it looks flipped. We're gonna see that it's flipped, so we're gonna probably have to do UV for it. Let's just save, go back to UV, go to lists, and for the screen we're gonna add a new map and call it screen. Select this one, UV projection tool. We're gonna with Y, go to UV relax. Now this is relaxed, and we're just gonna rotate it. And right now, let's select the vertices and straighten them out. Okay, now let's just switch over here. Let's switch this to UV screen, and you're gonna see that we're not seeing anything, but the problem is that we should be seeing the image right here. Okay, and now we only need to fit this so it matches the screen. And as you can see, it's flipped around, so we're going to need to rotate it 180 degrees. And if we flip the UVs, we're going to get the image correctly shown. Okay, now let's duplicate this. Actually, first let's divide this by 2.2, and Now we're going to duplicate it, set the gamma back to 1, set this to luminous amount, duplicate it, luminous color. Okay. Now that we have a fairly acceptable pose, I don't quite like that green, and let's just change it to another color, maybe a lime green, like that. And let's just give it low settings and give this a test render. And as you can see, the settings are pretty low. And let's just give this a test render. You might want to change the frame to smaller size so it can render faster. So this way we can see what we have right now and if we need to do some kind of adjustment. It looks good. It's not too fancy and it's not too basic. It looks good. We're gonna do some post work on it just to be sure. Okay, now that this is rendered, let's change back our resolution to well, let's make it 800 this time. As for the outputs, we are gonna well, one thing I want to do is turn on conserve energy for the floor and give it a more black material, and maybe a slight reflection. Let's just say 2 with blurry reflections turned on. Okay. And as for the render outputs, we're gonna have to have an ambient occlusion output. And let's just test this out real quick. I know for a fact that we need to change the occlusion rays to at least 128, and according to our camera over here, the occlusion range shouldn't be more than 300 millimeters. Let's save our scene and give it a test render to test out the occlusion. We just want to catch the soft shadows, and I think we did a pretty good job at doing it. Okay, and we want to duplicate it and change this to depth, and let's test the depth. Well, the depth and we need to play a bit with the camera for the depth. So let's select our camera, and let's sorry, not the focal length, the target distance. Let's go up to the top, get our ruler tool, and set this to the furthest point of the image and to the camera. And we're going to see that the focal depth should be the target distance. Well, we only want to focus to like up to here, So the target distance should be 6 meters. And let's test this right now. I'm just trying to get a slight blur on the screen of the iPod, which is down. Let's try 5. Again, 5 seems too much. Let's try 2 meters. Again, 2 meters seems too much, but it looks like it's not working. Oh. Well, let's see what happens if we bump this up to 60. Nothing happens again. Okay, let's try this 100 millimeters. Still nothing happens. Well, let's just drop the depth at the moment. We're just gonna add a very soft blur using gradients. So now that we have our scene set up for rendering, first of all, let's disable the ruler. For rendering, I'm gonna use a plugin which is provided by Digital Design. This plugin basically turns Modo into a one-click renderer. You can find the plugin at www.vandigital.com. Let me just type that out real quick. Or actually, let's show. I'm gonna show it to you real fast. Okay, this plugin. I forgot where it is. Somewhere around here. Oh, okay. Over here you have, it's called Irradiance XSR, and it's a render enhancement for Modo, and it basically turns it into a one-click renderer. You can buy it from vandigital.com. It's only $50, and according to well, from my experience, I can tell you that those $50 are worth it. Okay, I'm just gonna show you. So we have our scene set up, our material set up, and now let's go to the AA controls over here, and we're gonna set the AA to low. Seth likes to, well, let's just say that for him, low settings are kind of medium for me, so I always go with those settings when he says this is low for me, you know. Okay, so the sampler settings, we're just gonna set this to low again. The GI, well, we're gonna set the GI to low because we don't have a very complicated scene. And now we're gonna perform an X2 render, as Seth calls it. It basically calculates the irradiance map with the resolution double. So we have 800 by 800 right now, and if we do an X2 render, it's gonna render the irradiance map at 1600 by 1600. If we were to go X3, X4, you know what happens. It saves out the irradiance map, and then it goes back to rendering, it goes back to rendering again, this time using 800 by 800, but it is going to use the irradiance cache from the X2. This is mostly used for interior renderings because it greatly increases the quality, but we're going to use it right now because we have pretty low irradiance cache settings. So we have this set. Let's save our scene and let's just take X2 and let it render. Now I'm gonna pause this and get back when it finishes rendering so we can see what we can do in post-process work. Okay, so as you can see, the render took about 8 minutes. One thing I noticed is that we forgot to remap the screen for the second iPod, one that's standing, and we can't clearly see the battery. But you can do it. Simply by UVing that plane, just using a method that we did for this one. But I'm not going to get into that right now. Also, the floor could have used more samples for the blurry reflections. But I'm not going to re-render this because I'm running out of time. So I'm just going to go on and get on with post. So let's just save this image and let's go to over here and let's save this as BMP just because it keeps the quality from the render, and let's just call this color no post. Switch over to the ambient occlusion output and save this to AO, and we can close this. We can save our scene and we can switch over to Photoshop and we can start working on this. So we get the color no post and we open it. We open the AO, and first of all what I want to do is gather some do some color adjustments. So we want contrast a bit higher and the brightness a bit down, and now we could go to let's try maybe a photo filter with cooling filter, but no, that changes our colors. Let's just try the color balance. So we want the highlights to go down a bit, so we're just gonna drag this down to -30, -30, -30. Okay, and the midtones maybe a bit of red. Okay, and now we can go on and paste over our ambient occlusion output and set it to multiply and change the opacity to about 80%. Okay, now this is not a professional render output, but you can play with the settings and the material settings, the render settings, and you can also do whatever post work you feel like doing. But I'm just gonna leave it as it is for the time being. Now I just flattened the image, and now what I want to do is add some let's add a bit of vignetting, right? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I know we can add some vignetting. Let's just determine where the center is, right there. Okay, we forgot to add this to a new layer. Okay, and we can set this mode to well, actually screen, but we're gonna need we're gonna need to do something different. We're gonna need to duplicate our background. Let's hide this. Let's blur this. Let's try something fancy, maybe radial blur. Set the zoom and amount to about 60. It's gonna take a while to compute. Okay. Now let's add a layer mask for this one. Let's go ahead and copy this layer over to the background, layer mask, and now we can play with the opacity, maybe 50. Yeah, 50 is no, 70% is good. And now we can add some noise, just to not make it look so CG-ish. Okay, add noise, and we want to add this uniform noise. We want to make it monochromatic, and the amount should be quite small, maybe 3%. Well, let's just keep it 2 because we have the noise from the reflection. Okay, and let's hit OK. Now we can save our image as a JPEG, and let's call this Ipod finished JPEG. Hit OK, and this was it. I want to thank Caleb for giving me the opportunity to write this tutorial, and don't forget to visit CGTuts Plus on a daily basis, because it's a great resource site for tutorials and other stuff, and I'll be seeing you there.